Coming up, part 3 of our series of programs celebrating 6 Caribbean countries. They have been validated as having eliminated mother-to-child transmission of HIV and syphilis. In this edition of CaribNation, we talk with representatives from UNAIDS and UNICEF and the key or HIV population, very important partners who helped the countries in this achievement. Stay tuned, that's up next on CaribNation. Hello, welcome to CaribNation. I'm Doris Dean. In today's edition, we continue with part 3 in our series documenting the success of 6 Caribbean countries in eliminating mother-to-child transmission of HIV and syphilis. Of 11 countries in the world claiming this achievement, 7 are in the Caribbean. As AIDA Oliver, director of UNICEF, asserts, this is a big deal in a very complex process.
To reach this point is not has not been easy. It has required a lot of attention, a lot of support from different stakeholders. First, from the countries themselves, from the governments, when the government decision to get into the program, and then working together with the different ministries of health, the different social workers, and also working with the statistical systems of the different ministers. So it sounds like simple today, but it is a very complex process. Having said that, I think that our role of UNICEF has been the role that we have always in our programming area, which is to accompany governments when they decide to go into to achieve such a significant goal. Because something that I would like to remark is that this is a very important public health achievement and for a country. Yeah. To have countries that can say that their babies can born free of HIV/AIDS is a remarkable thing. Only 11 countries in the world right now can say so. Mm-hmm. And 6 of them are in this part of the...
When you include Cuba.
7 with Cuba, correct,
yes.
Which was the first one.
Mm-hmm.
It's remarkable.
Yes.
So we are very proud. I represent the regional office of Latin America and the Caribbean. We have a presence here in 10 countries and 4 territories. And through our technical colleagues, we have providing this follow-up to all of these specific benchmark of the process, which means dealing with the program itself, setting up a program that where the mothers can have access to the treatment. Then the issue of data, disaggregated data. I think that this is something that we need to continue to stress, that it is extremely important to have up-to-date data. This is a matter of time. So real-time data is extremely important. We cannot achieve this if it is done later on. Mm-hmm. So I think that the issue of data, the issue of setting up this information system, and there is a human rights part, which have to do with dealing with addressing issues of discrimination and stereotypes. So we are extremely happy to be here today. There is a huge challenge because this is only the beginning. Mm-hmm. A challenge is to maintain this level of accomplishment, to maintain it throughout the time, and to continue to address it in a way that the children who survive are going to be able to thrive and to develop into young and healthy citizens. And this is another challenge that we have here in the Caribbean.
They don't then contract HIV later on.
Exactly. So we need to not only have baby born free, but also maintain the adolescents stay out of HIV/AIDS, and also the young adults to stay out of HIV/AIDS. And of course, the main goal of this is that nobody dies of AIDS.
Right. You have your records are showing that you've been able to at least stabilize the number of people with AIDS so far, but of course the goal is to keep that number going down.
Exactly, that is the goal. O sea, the general goal is to practically eliminate, the transmission of HIV/AIDS, and this is something that we need to continue working on this. This set a very specific example, because to achieve this goal, as I said before, it has a combination of different things. It's a combination that the treatment is there, so it is also the approach to the family, to the community, the trust of the community, of the family, of the mother in the system. So it requires a lot of engagement of the health system, and sometimes innovating and changing the way of doing business, which is sometimes not very easy, but it is important.
Another very important partner of the 6 Caribbean countries in the journey to validation is UNAIDS Director Cesar Nunez. He talked with me about the important role his organization plays by providing strategic data to the government decision makers. He believes this achievement of elimination of mother-to-child transmission of HIV and syphilis is a key step in the removal of stigma and in moving closer to prevention. He also believes the Caribbean has the potential to be the first region to eliminate HIV and AIDS.
First of all, I think that the world in and of itself is evolving towards more self-sustained responses from the country level in terms of the HIV/AIDS epidemic. And it's been 36 years since the first AIDS cases were reported. And we have seen innovation take place in terms of the distribution of antiretrovirals. It used to be when the first antiretroviral regimen was established that individuals had to take several pills a day for the rest of their life. Now we have moved to single-dose medicines, and that means one pill with a combination of therapies, and that is available in the Caribbean. We have seen then progress on treatment. We have more pillars in terms of the response. We have the prevention, we have stigma and discrimination. And UNAIDS has, since the beginning, assisted with strategic information that would allow decision makers to make the best decisions, informed decisions about how to better respond. I think that first of all is just the awareness raising. This is an issue that needs to be addressed. This does exist. Because in the very first years, beyond Haiti, which unfortunately was sort of mischaracterized as being one of the countries that originated HIV. You may recall back in the 80s.
Oh, yes.
That was very, very bad, terrible. AIDS exists all over the world, and there's no country where HIV cases have not been reported. So it's important to consider that. And UNAIDS brings the data element, the strategic information. Yes, there is this number of people who live with HIV, and they live in this particular geographical locations, and they are vulnerable because A, B, and C. So we bring this information to the country, to the partners, and encourage them to take certain avenues. From the beginning, once therapy was available, was people need to have treatment. And believe me, we can be one side or bring this side of the story to our counterparts at government level, but civil society has to push from the other side. This is a bottom up and top down approach. I feel that on treatment, it was successful. Countries are providing it. People are staying alive. Today we heard some testimonies about that. Prevention. I believe that much more can be done about that. And today, here in St. Kitts, we launched a report that was co-authored with the Pan American Health Organization on what's still missing, what are the challenges in terms of prevention, what needs to be done to reduce the number of new infections. Because, and you alluded to resources already, resources are scarce. And if every year the Minister of Health has to come down and knocking on the door of the Minister of Finance, I need more money because there are more people who showed up as, with HIV, I believe that there's going to a point in time when that's not going to be possible anymore.
Right.
So we need to cut the line of new infections. Prevention does the trick. The biggest challenge, and not only in the Caribbean but in the rest of the world, is stigma and discrimination. In March this year, we marked Anti-Discrimination Day in March, and it was in the health services, because still today, in the 21st century, we have health care providers who exercise discrimination towards people with HIV. UNAIDS then has a complex task at bringing together the different sectors to the table, encouraging them to talk about it, encouraging governments to place the funds that are necessary to pay for treatment and also for the prevention, and hopefully passing public policy that would address the social needs of individuals.
We're celebrating today also the elimination of mother-to-child transmission of HIV and syphilis, which is a major achievement for the Caribbean. When you look at the small islands that have been able to achieve this, and we still have some of the bigger islands on the way, this is going to require more help in order to sustain those who have already reached validation, but to help the bigger islands get to validation. Talk a little bit about UNAIDS' role also in working with resources, again, to help this system.
The response to AIDS always calls for multi-sectorial engagement. And this means that, yes, it is a health-related issue, but we see this as a development issue. So we need several partners engaged. From UNAIDS' perspective, we see these from the perspective of a life cycle. So we protect the child from even before he or she is being born. And then we want to make sure that this child grows well with good nutrition. And when this child reaches puberty or adolescence, we need to make sure that he or she receives proper information to protect themselves, because their sexual debut is not far away. And when they are growing up, they need to also protect themselves. I feel that the validation of the elimination to mother-to-child transmission goes through all those phases. It's not only that particular part of addressing the needs of the pregnant woman. It's a multi-sectoral job, because we also see several partners participating into these. PAHO in particular, as a traditional partner of the Ministries of Health, is emphasizing this in the regional plan for HIV. And let's not forget that it's not only the elimination of HIV transmission, but also congenital syphilis.
Yes.
I believe that most countries have found more challenging to eliminate syphilis. Syphilis has been within the world for hundreds of years.
Yes.
We read about wonderful scientists, musicians, and so on who went through syphilis. How come are we still going through syphilis? An illness that can be taken care of with cents, not these expensive medications to treat HIV. And I say expensive, in comparison, because now we have very, very accessible ARVs in the world and in the Caribbean. But I believe that elimination of mother-to-child transmission is going to help us get rid of syphilis first, and also in terms of us at UNAIDS, we value the partnership that we do with PAHO and with UNICEF. Yes, there's this goal that it should be parents who provide sexuality education, and I'm fine with that. But I don't know about you, but my parents never talked to me about.
You're from that generation.
Yeah, exactly. And the other day, I was fortunate enough to be in women leaders gathering on HIV, and we had a wonderful group of young women. They're all living with HIV, either because they were born with HIV and now they're in their 20s, or they were infected when they were adolescents. And they said, you know what we wish, what do you wish? Why don't you guys provide sexuality education to our parents? Exactly. You know, you need to do that. They don't know. They don't feel comfortable talking to us about sex.
True. Some of those parents didn't have anything.
Exactly.
By trial and error, I suppose.
So they are good advocates of sexuality education to their peers and to their parents.
Right.
I feel that, as you can see, it's a long answer to your question about what we can do about vertical transmission. There's a lot that we can do, and the Caribbean can be the first region in the world that eliminates HIV from mother to child.
Yeah. Well, we're on the way there. We're on the way there.
Absolutely. So, I feel that with the addition of these six new countries and territories, the Caribbean is moving forward. Larger countries, you alluded to that. Well, the challenge again is in the numbers.
Right.
But once, and I've talked about this with the Minister of Health of Jamaica, I've talked about this with the Minister of Health of Haiti, and they are committed to really scaling up, because that's what it is. It's not that we don't know what has to be done, but we need to scale up the efforts.
AINSLEY REID hails from Jamaica and represents the key population of people living with HIV and AIDS. He sits on Jamaica's National Family Planning Board and is responsible for capacity building for his population, how people respond to the condition. He shares some of the challenges he has experienced and talks about the very important hands-on work he is doing.
My involvement in the response to HIV is really based on my own challenge and fight and struggle with the obstacles. And so by overcoming some of the obstacles in my own life, I'm now able to help the community of people living with HIV. A few years ago, in 1992, I was diagnosed with HIV on the 22nd of March. So since then, I've been struggling with issues around myself, who I am, why God allowed this to happen to me, and so on. But, you know, I think the bigger issue was that I lost my job because, you know, I was found out to be HIV positive. Then I was attacked simply because of my HIV status in Jamaica. I was attacked. I got a stab in my neck, a stab in my chest, one in my back, and a machete that chopped me on my arm. But apart from that, I've had many challenges with persons who think that HIV positive persons should not be in the workplace, in church, and in the general community. So I've stood up to that. So I figured that as a community of people living with HIV, we need to do something. So we mobilized persons and we started training, helping people to understand about HIV. And so we were able to do a number of things. One, we were able to lobby the government to provide treatment, and that happened. We also lobbied the government to do something about discrimination. So in Jamaica, we have what we call the National HIV-related Stigma and Discrimination System, HIV. It's NHDRRS. Okay. Since recently, they have changed the name to Jamaica Anti-Discrimination System.
Oh,
a simpler
much
name.
simpler, yes.
But you know, the anti-discrimination system has really helped us to understand how we respond to HIV. So we capture reports from church, community, home, school, work, and so we're able to measure where discrimination happens, where stigmatization happens, and then a plan is built around how do we target those entities. So that for us, you know, so out of my experience, you know, come a good thing.
Yes. Yeah.
Also, out of my experience, come the formation of the Jamaica network of people living with HIV. So we have done, as a community, we have done some things simply out of the experience of the community. And so it took a few of us to lead all of that.
How deep did you have to dig to get from the point where you were attacked, discriminated against, to saying, okay, I have to do something to move out from this? Where did you have to go to get that strength?
I didn't have to go far. It was either that I was going to challenge the status quo or I was going to die. So I've seen many people die in Jamaica from HIV-related complications, including depression, including staying away, including not eating and die, including not taking meds and die. So I have seen it. And so I had to do something. Also, I am a person of faith. So my faith helped me significantly to find the strength and to become resilient, to bounce back from a very challenging situation to a place where I feel better now because I have done something. I have done my part, and so what we have today now, we have a network of people living with HIV run by a board, for which I'm the founder. We also have the GPA capacity building program at the National Family Planning Board that I run, where we train community leaders to improve the number of community activists. We also have a number of NGOs that are doing work with people living with HIV, and that is also significant. Plus, we have the National HIV Program that provides treatment and care program through a network of clinics right across the island. So, the work is happening with many different stakeholders. And so, the provision of services also help us to find reason to fight back. Because you have treatment, because you have, there's what we call support from many other agencies.
Yes, social support.
Yes, and the whole thing around social capital is important to us as a community, simply because we have to depend on each other and we have to depend on other stakeholders. So it is out of that we are working and challenging what is happening to people living with HIV.
Well, we've heard today many of the reports that the cases of HIV positive is rising. The number of cases is rising among men, especially in the Caribbean. As a man who has overcome this, you're in a unique position to not only understand where men are coming from, but help them get to the next level. What are the key priorities you would say you can take on to help men get to that point? Because that is what will help us get to the goal of 2030 at the rate that we're going. We still have over 120,000 people around the region. Tell me how you think you can play a major part in that.
I think we have to challenge norms, we have norms around, how men should treat women, how men should treat other men, and so we have to challenge those. We also have to challenge deep-rooted masculinity that we have it sometimes it don't make any sense. And it also drives men to have poor health-seeking behavior. So I think the answer to that is, how do we help men to help more men? How do we help men to recognize that poor health-seeking behavior is not going to cause you to live up a better quality of life?
Right.
So men will go out and smoke, smoke weed and so on. Also, more men are becoming alcoholics and so on. Yes. More men are getting involved in violence at community levels and so on. I think it's important for us to make a shift not only in how we treat with adult men, but boys. I think if we are going to make an effective impact on the situation for males, now we have to raise the sensitivities, we have to engage them, in places where they congregate, in places we have to go
to where they are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then we have to treat with boys in a way that is different. I think what we have learned also is that we have an education system that is primarily helping boys using curricula that help girls advance in a way that is good. But it is not as
forget
helpful
the boys.
Yes.
And so they fall by the wayside along the way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so it is important for us to go back and re-educate, reorient teachers, look at the curricula that we have and see how we can, redo those curricula so that they are helping boys adequately.
Yeah.
So I think it's important. I heard somebody speak about 2030, and if we are going to make a dent, we have to start now.
Yes.
We have to start now so we can make a shift. So it is going to take a societal shift, a total societal shift, if we are going to help men adequately. I think we have different shades of men now. Of course, we have gay and bisexual men. And that in itself is
another group altogether. Yes,
another group altogether.
Yeah.
Of course, you have men who are hard to reach simply because of how the society is structured. You have men who are family, who say that they're family people, and who also may be involved in extramarital affair or in common law relationships in which they are not helping the relationship between themselves and their families. And so it is very important for us to sit down as men and have conversations.
Frank conversations.
Frank conversations about sex, about relationships, about family, what is family, how we're dealing with that.
How it really means. Yeah, how you can support family and how much hands-on work you need to support a family.
But I wanted to even tell you about my own situation. I was born I grew up with my mother alone. I was born seeing my mom, and I lived with my mom for years. And so it is important for me as a man now who never experienced having a real father, a real father figure in my life, I understand how boys feel growing up just with mom. Your mom can't father you.
Right.
Your mom will always be mothering you. And so if you don't know what it is like to have father and being father, then you can't give that.
Right, because you have no example.
Exactly. Yeah. So it is important for us to develop a model of what a father is for the society and get people to rally around that. I think our culture is missing the father, the culture, our families, the institutions, the agents of change. We don't have fathers and men in them. And if they are, it is always riddled with corruption, violence and so on. So we have to develop a positive image of what man means and what father is.
Right. So as you can see, it took several layers of support for these countries to complete this journey towards validation. Tune in for our next edition when we talk with the regional chair of the Validation Committee and the policymakers. Until next time, thank you for watching Carib Nation, and remember our motto is one people, one culture, one Caribbean, one nation. I'm Doris Dean.